and welcome to the weird televisual world of Nub TV, where we mix paranormal, UFOs, weird stuff and music, believe it or not. Today's episode is all about crop circles and UFOs, and about possible links between them. And I'll be chatting to Dr Simeon Hein, researcher and author. We get a bit deep and meaningful.
Wow.
It's quite cool, actually. Yeah. And have you seen any crop circles?
Well, I used to live in a village, so me and my mates used to sit in the field and, you know, have some takeouts, and we did hear
Cider, was it?
Yeah, we did have like a rumbling sound,
Really?
like that terrified us one night. It was like
Drunk farmer in a combine.
yeah, probably,
okay.
or the Wurzels like rolling out from one of their gigs. You never know.
Okay. But you haven't seen one being formed or anything?
No, have you?
No.
No.
One day. Saturday night, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's first on Nub
Wow.
tonight?
First up is a friend of Nub and Nub favourite, Ronan Furlong, with
nice.
a lovely bit of kind of acoustic folk called The King of Leaves.
Awesome.
The King of Leaves is marching out tonight. The Lord of Thorns is most satisfied. A wound that festered long is metastasized. The cords that bound him down have been untied. The chilling breeze is sharpening the knife. An army of the wind is on the rise and sweeping all before the bridge of sighs. No honey words can ease his angry mind. He calling down the storm, sent away the dawn. He's fooling everyone. Oh yeah, his patience is forgone. Sent away the dawn. He calling down the storm. The King of Leaves is marching out tonight. And who am I to tell him what is right?
Okay, well, that was sweet. And no idea what that's about. I'm sure it's something mystical and deep.
Well, it sort of links to crop circles a little bit, I
okay.
think. It's all about humans destroying the environment, and is the environment going to kick back?
Okay.
Back in the day, they you know, the Green Man and people worshipping nature as a god.
Going back to, pagan
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Also, there's that theory by James Lovelock, the Gaia hypothesis, where the Earth is actually a living organism.
Yeah.
So, maybe they'll just get rid of humanity and survive without us. Cheery times on Nub TV. Anyway, I'm chatting now to one of the world's leading crop circle researchers, Simeon Hein. And I actually interviewed him about 10 years ago when I was working for a New York magazine. And he's one of the few researchers, he's based in America, but he comes over to summer in England, basically, to look at crop circles. And he's seen hundreds of them being formed and been investigating them for years, so he knows his stuff. So, this is a top interview. So on Nub TV now, we have the wonderful Simeon Hein, crop circle researcher extraordinaire. Hello, Simeon. How you doing?
Hi, Mark. How's it going?
I know you've been involved, obviously, with crop circle research for quite a long time. Uh, I mean, a simple question, I guess. Are crop circles real, or because it was touted that some of them were a hoax, but I assume that's not the case. So, what's your thoughts on crop circles?
Well, I went over there in '97 not knowing what was making them. And I went with a guy named Ron Russell from the Denver area, whom I met at a UFO conference. After getting involved with RV, I started coming across UFO witnesses. I mean, and not just people. I'm talking about people that work with NASA, people that had worked with the US government who told me, taking these classes during breaks and stuff, this is real.
Wow.
We're coming to here in the past few months. But I got interested. So, well, what's going on with the subject? I didn't know very much about it. And I met Ron at one of these conferences in Denver, and he said, we don't know who's making them, but you can come on a tour. We'll go over there and check it out.
Yeah.
The first thing that I saw was weird effects on cameras and batteries, which I've seen every year since I've been back there. And until 2000, if you had seen me give a lecture on stage, Mark, I would have said, I don't think people could make them. They're too complex and they're too precise. And there's only 5 hours of nighttime in your country during the summer. You can't do it. Until we met a circle making group that literally had seen me give this lecture. And they said, Simeon, and they offered this to Ron too, but he declined. Would you like to see us make one? He actually went with us the first time in the daytime for a radio ad paid for. Farmer had been paid. And we said, well, they can do something. We weren't sure if they could do it at night. And then another group said, well, would you like to see us make one at night? And I wrote about this in my book, Opening Minds.
Yeah.
A Journey of Extraordinary Encounters, Crop Circles and Resonance. And I was really impressed that they could actually do this at night. And what that showed me is a lot of the mythology around it was, in fact, just myth. They were very good at night. They had walkie-talkies, they had ropes, they had lasers. They were like a military precision team out there on special operations in some farmer's field that they had picked because of the location and the appearance and the ripeness of the crop. Yeah. And they were capable of making them. And the big surprise was when we looked back at the ones that these teams had made, and we discovered multiple teams, we realized our cameras and batteries were failing in some of the man-made ones, even though we couldn't determine all of them, the origin. Now, you're in Hertfordshire, so we have to say there is a long history of crop circles before I met human circle makers, and long before they started going on the stage, Doug and Dave, the two guys who did make them. Yeah. But even before they arrived, there's a book, Colin Wilson's book, The Secret History of Crop Circles, which I don't know if it's in print. I think it is in print again. It goes back quite a ways. And I've spoken with who've seen discs come over fields, what we would call UFOs, and affect meadows and things. So I think there is a relationship between UFOs and crop circles. Doug Bauer, I believe he was the artist from Australia of the Doug and Dave, who was inspired by the Tully saucer nests, which were these patterns of reeds where people had seen discs leaving. So there is a definite UFO connection, but people did make them. And my feeling about them is they're not hoaxes, for the most part, the ones that people do. They're not done as a joke. What the teams that I met, and again, I wrote about this in Opening Minds, they called it natural magic. They really felt that something special was happening when they made these. And now, all these years later, having been in them so many times and visited your country, it does seem that there are special properties of anything arranged in a vortex.
Yeah.
Pattern that affects space-time, affects electromagnetics. And so I think the subject's more complex than any of us thought.
So the motivation's not just to prank people, it's they feel compelled. Is that the right word? Or
I would say so. They felt compelled. I've had them use that language. They've gone into fields at times and said, doesn't feel right. We're not going to do it. I know of cases where someone would have been going to sleep and they felt compelled to go out to a location and make one.
Okay, nice one. So yeah, there's lots of weird stuff about crop circles that we don't quite understand. And I think what Simeon is saying here is that a lot of them are man-made. I know people don't want to hear that on Nub TV, but they are, you know. But there's still some mystery regarding it, especially with the equipment malfunctioning, even in the man-made ones. He's been in there, the centre of circles that he's just made with other crop circle hoaxes, and their equipment, cameras, phones, have all malfunctioned. Why is that?
Maybe there's a power in the patterns, or I don't know.
It's weird. I mean, he's sure that some of them are unexplained as well. That can't be, that are just far too complicated for humans to have created.
Yeah.
And there is some links to UFOs, because a lot of people see these lights above them, and the next morning there's a pissed off farmer who's destroying my wheat. But yeah, it's a mystery, and it's all from your neck of the woods, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Down in Wiltshire.
Wiltshire.
I mean, to me, it makes sense. It's just like, because they're quite circular, and quite often it's just alien spaceships with like the jet boosters making the. That's how I think. But is that not really a valid scientific theory?
I think you need to think more outside of the box.
Yeah.
Because people think alien spaceships, boosters. I think my take on UFOs, they're interdimensional. Some sort of vehicle like that.
Yeah.
And they haven't come from outer space. They've come from inner space, another dimension, possibly. Okay, we'll find out more from Simeon Hein a bit later. Okay, welcome back to Nub TV. We've got more now from Crop Circle author and researcher Simeon Hein. I mean, what's your opinion with the current UFO disclosure movement? Are we going to get some truth to what's going on, or is it just going to be hidden away for a bit longer? What's your opinion?
Well, I feel like we're moving in the right direction. Just even in the past couple of days here in the U.S., we've had people like Marco Rubio.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, saying we want hearings on this. There's other witnesses besides this witness, David Grush, who's come forward. Who, you know, the point is, at this time is the highest ranking official to come forward within the U.S. About his knowledge of crash retrieval programs and this whole subject matter, special access programs. But I mean, I've spoken to people who've handled this material who haven't come forward to the public yet. I've made videos about it on my YouTube channel. So my feeling is this is a good chance that this is going to move forward. What it reveals is some sort of major dysfunction within our governments, yours and mine over here, of not really keeping tabs on the farm, like not knowing what's going on within their own system of where the money's going, what's being studied, and are these being covered up for decades? And is that constitutional? I mean, does it work with the checks and balances that we both have in our respective countries? So I think it's not just about extraterrestrial life and the possibility of other intelligent beings here that we were never told about publicly. It's about if the system became so dysfunctional that it's hard to find out, and we need special actions from Congress to get legislation. But I think it's moving in the right direction, Mark. And I think, look, every couple hundred years, ideas are overturned. It wouldn't be the first time this has happened. I mean, 500 years ago, it was Copernicus and Galileo.
Absolutely, yeah.
And other scientists arguing maybe the Earth, wasn't the Ptolemaic system is maybe flawed, and the Earth wasn't the center of everything, which at the time was the belief. And that was, it took observations from Galileo observing the moons around Jupiter, if I'm correct, to realize that the Earth wasn't the center of it. They were going around Jupiter, and if the moons could go around Jupiter, then maybe Jupiter could go around the sun. So it's just observations that crack these old archaic belief systems. I think we could be going through that time now. It seems to me from the subjects we've just talked about here, those have never really been studied by mainstream science that much. I mean, you saw there was an article about RV years ago by Targum put off in Science magazine, but I haven't seen any recently. It almost like you have some of these subjects have been walled off. I mean, why? What's the danger of discovering that the extraterrestrials are here or whomever. If it builds up enough against the existing paradigm, it will crack like a dam. I mean, it just takes a few facts coming through that dam to crumble the whole edifice.
But again, yeah, I can see that happening. I think you're on the right direction with that. But what would happen to society as a whole? Do you think people would be able to cope with it? Because what the government uses, the people can't know the truth, they won't be able to cope with it. It'll be mass panic. Do you think that's true?
It might have been true decades ago, but I mean, I grew up with Star Trek since I was a kid in the 60s. So I think someone of my generation would not be entirely shocked having seen hundreds of episodes of Star Trek in all its incarnations. There's even new versions of Star Trek on right now. I was just watching one last night. It's amazing. It just keeps going with the same theme and different actors and new situations, but it's the same show. And in a very good way, I think. And I think anyone who's been around Star Trek, like me, would not panic. But I think there's
even Spielberg films. I think Steven Spielberg.
So that gets into the question whether we've been prepped for this by our own government in Hollywood. Because you have people at these UFO conferences who say they were approached. Producers. I've heard lectures from Hollywood producers, TV and movies, saying there was someone there from the government who just wanted to watch and give us helpful hints. So, nobody wants that type of panic. I don't think it would happen anymore. This is my feeling. And I think there's a lot of distrust from the government in the US. We can see that. This might be confirmation to those people. You see, they were hiding something, Trump was right, sort of thing. So it could feed into that populist idea that the government isn't really working for them. And it might stabilize. How about if it does what Reagan said at that speech at the UN and brings the world together in a new way? And some of the wars that we have going on in the world right now might stop. And we realize not that we have a common enemy, but that we're more similar than we're different.
Humanity. Yeah, no, I quite agree. I guess the thing is with the US government, it's probably not the US government that's doing it, is in control anymore. It's probably the private sector.
Yes.
Dark funding, the black budget funding, and it's doing its own thing. And that's probably what's happened.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right about that.
Okay. So mind, consciousness, vibrations, these are things I know nothing about. No. But Simeon does, and I think there's something more to. We can tie this into other things we talked about on Nub TV, the paranormal, UFOs, time slips, things like that.
Even quantum physics, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's some sort of missing thing to the standard model of physics that can't explain the phenomena that people are experiencing. It doesn't mean it's supernatural or woo-woo. It just means it hasn't yet been described adequately. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a dodgy science degree from a polytechnic, so what do I know? But I think mind enters into it somehow, and he kind of is saying that consciousness and the mind is not in the brain; it can be out there, and I think that ties into possibly quantum physics and.
I mean, I can't remember what the term is, quantum entanglement or whatever, where you've got an atom that can.
You've got two particles that are linked initially, and then you separate them, and by distance, one could be in Australia, one could be in St Albans. If you do do something to the one in St Albans, the same thing would happen to the one in Australia.
Crazy.
Even though they're thousands of miles apart.
Yeah.
So it's a weird world. On Nub TV.
Yeah, you could do that with a Barbie or something, couldn't you? You could
a Monster High doll.
Cook one prawn on a Barbie in England.
Oh, Barbie! I thought you meant a Barbie doll.
And that prawn could cook on a Barbie in Australia, maybe.
In the middle of the night in Australia, but yeah, he could have a go.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
What did you talk to Plastic EP? Where is he?
He'll know.
Yeah, he will do, won't he? It's a Barbie. Okay, what have we got next?
What have we got next? Good question. Oh, yeah. It's Kevy, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, we got something from Kevy.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, I was a bit kind of
I don't even know if we should show it, really. It's not one of his better ones, is it?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
It's all
I
right.
think. I mean, we said we're going to show it, so we've got to show it. But
Yeah.
hopefully I won't take it too personally.
You Stole My Heart Along the Way, it's called.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have a watch. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I think he's lost it. I mean, to be honest, Ska Punk is dead. It's a bit old-fashioned, and he's a bit kind of just lost it, I think.
He's done better, hasn't he? Really?
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed, really. Yeah, I know he means well, but so
It's a shame, but we're just talking about your track, Kevy.
fancy a drink?
Yeah.
I think we need a word, mate.
Yeah. Oh shit.
There is a light up in the sky. We sit and watch it go by. There is a light up in